Assalamualaikum. My name is Mohamad Hidayat. Today I'm going to share with you what I have done during the last semester course, which is Fluid Mechanic 1. So in order to participate in active learning, so I have to do 3 phases. The first part is planning phase, second one implementation phase, and finally reflection phase. So let's take a look each phase. The first part, planning phase. In order to teach the course, I need to understand the course information CI. In this CI, it consists 4 CLO. The first CLO refer to calculate and analyze shear stress. Second one, calculate and analyze fluid dynamic problem. Number 3, categorize, calculate and analyze the major and minor losses. And finally, identify and derive the dimensionless parameter for a given flow problem. So all these 4 CLOs refer to only one PLO, which is Program Learning Outcome number 1, which refer to the ability to acquire and apply fundamental knowledge of mathematics, science and engineering principle to solve complex mechanical engineering problems. And this PLO, which is PO1, refer to only one taxonomy, which is used to enhance the skill of the student in terms of cognitive skill, as we can see in C4. So the level of C4 here refer to analyze, categorize, compare, contrast, differentiate, discriminate and outline. So the learning and teaching method shall be lecture and active learning, and the assessment method consists of summative assessment and formative assessment, which include tests, final exam, this is summative, homework and quiz. All this is formative assessment. And when we take a look at the constructive alignment, it should consist learning outcome. So this is the learning outcome that student must obtain at the end of this course. These are the course learning outcome that the student supposed to obtain at the end of this course. And the learning and teaching activity consists of lecture and active learning. And finally, the assessment. So when we teach the student, okay, me myself need to assess them. Assess in terms of formative, which is to encourage students to improve their cognitive skill, as well as the summative assessment. Next, let's take a look the weightage of the assessment. So the assessment for the assignment, which is a formative assessment, 10%, programming assignment 10%, test 1 and test 2 20%. So total up here is 60%. And the final exam is 40%. Total is 100%. So how I implement these methods? Okay, constructive alignment. The first part, I would like to focus specifically on active learning method. So in this method, I have constructed using bookend approach. So in this bookend approach, for example, this is 1 hour class. The first or at the beginning of the class, for 10 minutes for example, I will use Mentimeter activity. So in here, I need the student to give response the example of fluids. So of course, this example of fluids, I need the student familiarize what's the fluid around them. after that, 50-minute lecturing. In this lecture, I will guide them on the theory of fluid mechanics principle. After that, 10 minutes is the break, or I can have the intermittent activity. So in this activity, I will conduct the Jamboard activity. So how it works? So this is the question that I asked during the Jamboard activity. How does fluid affect our life? And then 50-minute lecture. This is continuation and finally closure of the lessons. So basically this is the formative assessment for 10 minutes to understand or to get the feedback from that student whether they understand or not. So the learning theory that support the above technique, so I will normally use connectivism theory to help student in understanding the CLO actively. So that means student understand and participate in the class actively. So student will have the active learning by connecting them with pair so that they can communicate and gather and finally construct the knowledge. How this technique reflect your teaching philosophy? I believe by conducting active learning technique in class, this method can close the gap between two categories of students. Engagement such as more on theory and memorizing, because we know that student consists of two categories. One is towards theory and one towards memorizing. So in order to close the gap, we must perform the active learning methods. So these are the example that I have done during the last semester. So this one I use the Mentimeter. I send the link or they enter the code. Please give example of fluid. So they provide me with the water, oil, gasoline, honey. So here we have 43 participants only using one slide. So from here we can see how many of them actually understand the water. Okay, from here, for example, water and honey, I can explain to them different property. The water have low viscosity and honey have high viscosity. And finally, the reflection phase. Alright, so in order to understand the student feedback, normally I will look at the end course survey after fill up the IOBE. So from here, I can see each category, the course and achieve the attended target, agree, disagree. Okay, and then I can see the suggestion, how the course can be improved. Okay, already great, for example. Okay, provide more exercise and answer. So from here, I can reflect myself. Oh, this is the one that student requested from me, so I should do for the next semester. So all this information is grateful for my development in teaching. Finally, I would like to highlight what I have learned during the reflection from the class. Alright, the first one I learned about the right method. Okay, we should have the right method to assess the student. Okay, based on the assigned CLO and PLO. Second one, evaluate students should be overall by process and product, not focus on the final product. We should focus in between, which is the process. The third one, assessing the student should be based on rubric that align with their Bloom taxonomy. And finally, there is no killer subject. We as lecturer need to facilitate them to understand or to connect them with the right resources. I think that's all from me. Thank you.